SIG just came out with a stabilized spotting scope. Now this is kind of an industry first in terms of something that is usable. It is about the same size as a mid-size spotter, and we were able to get our hands on it before it released, so I'll walk you through a little bit of through-scope footage and share some opinions that I have on it so far. In terms of the actual unit, it's a decent size, a little bit heavy, but I'd say it's standard for a mid-size spotter. You've got 16 to 32 power, so it doesn't go in super close. Focus ring here, on-off ring here, zoom ring here, and yeah, I mean that's about it. It does come built in with an ARCA foot, which is nice, and we'll do a little through scope footage and show you guys what it looks like.
We'll start by looking at stabilization and overall usability. I'm currently at 16 power, handheld, sitting in my truck. I think it does very well here. However, we are only at 16 power, and in my opinion, the 16 power SIG binoculars have more functional stabilization due to the way you hold them. We'll go into 25 power, and the spotter begins to show more of its purpose. At 25 power, I'm able to scan the hillside with enough stability to read the terrain without a tripod. Now that's pretty impressive considering the size and weight of this scope. Now we're at 32 power, which is the maximum zoom on this scope. A few things have happened. First, I lost a lot of light, so I had to adjust the camera settings. Second, the stabilization started to have a bit of a rolling shutter effect. I'm not sure why this happened. When using my eye, I did notice this, but it didn't seem quite as bad as the camera shows. The one thing that was consistent, though, is the fact that I struggled to read the image at full power with my eye. We'll talk more on that in a bit. I also want to show real quick how sensitive the eye relief is. Or in other words, your eye needs to be perfectly aligned with the glass at the perfect distance to avoid dark spots or strange glare at full power. And that's difficult to do when the scope is handheld. I'll use this example to show more of what I'm talking about. I have the phone centered as well as I can on the lens. I'm on a tripod at 16 power, and when I zoom in, you'll see that I lose overall light, but I also begin to see a dark spot right here. It's kind of strange to me, and I don't understand it. I'll adjust settings and zoom back out to 25 power. Notice the rolling shutter effect doesn't exist when we're on a tripod. The stabilization is very smooth, even though there was a slight wind. I'll use this example to look at clarity. We're at 32 power and on a tripod. There's a slight wind, and without stabilization, there was a bit of shake. Stabilization really does a great job at cutting the wind shake. As for clarity, it's mediocre at best. The hillside is quite close, and I still had a tough time reading the image with my eye. And the camera shows a lack of definition overall. Once you move out from the center up to about 50% of the glass, it becomes fairly unusable due to edge blur. The center of the glass has good sharpness and contrast, but the resolution is a little low. With that being said, I think you could absolutely judge a deer that was lying under these junipers. This is a good example of how resolution isn't everything. I think this scope has great colors and contrast that really boost the usability of the image, considering the struggles with resolution. I'll move it around a bit with the tripod to show you guys how functional the stabilization is. Gone are the days of losing an animal because you adjusted your spotter. Now for the low light comparison. Overall, I was impressed with the way the scope did. This first clip is exactly 30 minutes before sunrise on 16 power, and it was barely usable, but when I compared it next to an 85mm Diamondback that I had in the truck, I saw almost identical light transmission, with the SIG actually pulling way ahead in image quality. This is not a real comparison. The Diamondback is at a greater power. I just wanted to show you guys how impressive the SIG actually was in low light. I'll go from 16 power into 32 power, and it falls apart pretty quick. You're definitely going to want to keep it wide at first light. Now we're 15 minutes before sunrise, and I have a lot more definition. I'm scanning at 16 power, and it's pretty comfortable, but then I zoom into 32 power, and it goes right back to being dark and pretty unusable. Unless the target was in the lighter grass, I think you'd struggle here. I'm looking east right now, though, and the hillside is quite dark, so that does play into things. In conclusion, this is a really cool piece of gear, but in my opinion, it's not really a great optic. I can see select uses for it, such as using from a truck or in highly windy conditions, but I found the image quite difficult to read with my own eye. I think there's a lot of things that come into play here, but in most scenarios, I'd probably take the 16 power binoculars over this scope. However, I was quite harsh on it in this video. I'd say it performed exactly as I expected to, and I had a lot of fun using it. I think it is amazing that someone is finally pushing stabilization into spotting scopes, and I am truly excited to see what the Gen 2 is going to look like. Keep in mind too, these are just my first impressions. We do sell this scope at gearful.com, so if you want to pick one up, we'd appreciate it if you went to our website and supported more videos like this. Thanks for watching, guys.